Thank you so much, and welcome everyone to the Black Blockchain Summit 2024. Today we are on Black community building on DAOs and the DeFis. Maybe we should kick things off by introducing ourselves. I start off by introducing myself. My name is Alakanani Tireleng. Most people call me the Bitcoin lady because I so much love Bitcoin and I love the space. And it will be awesome if each one of us can briefly introduce themselves and share maybe what brought you into the space.
And share what?
What brought you into the space, the space of crypto space?
Okay, well, I'll jump in. My name is David Benjamin. I am a council member of Bridget DAO, and we are focused on regeneration, cognitive freedom, and collective intelligence. We support projects that will forward these types of aims in the world. Right now, I'm working on Bitcoin ordinal collections. In particular, I'm working on dynamic ordinal collections, so they're a little different than the standard ones. They actually change over time. What brought me to the space? Well, I'm all about freedom, and I think that Web3 is the possibility for freedom. And I'm actually pioneering the idea of Web4, which is essentially a meta layer on top of the web, which brings Web3 to every web page.
Awesome. That sounds cool. We'd love to hear more about that one. Thank you so much, Benjamin. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks for having me here today. So I'm actually not participating in a DAO, but I've facilitated the creation of them. So I've been working in Web3 for a couple of years now. I started at Dapper Labs. And while I was there, I launched and ran the Black Creator Fund. And that was a $1.2 million grant program for, we end up bringing in 23 Black-led projects that are mostly launching Web3 projects around NFTs. What I really focused on for that grant program was NFT usage that was not traditional. And so one of the grantees was the Black DAO. The person who launched it goes by OX Na. That's his handle, and he remains anonymous. But it's like they were trying to create basically a way to inform folks on how to use cryptocurrency and create like a pan-African reserve currency using crypto and other things like that. And so I also am not super experienced in the DeFi space, but it was really interesting to see what they were trying to do as far as creating a reserve currency for folks in our community and across the Pan-African diaspora. I work for a DAO community platform company called Commonwealth. We just rebranded this year called Common.xyz, and we serve a lot of DAOs, some the bigger ones like 1inch and Links DAO, and some other Cosmos-based DAOs as well. And we're a forum basically for folks to discuss and then record things, transactions on chain. So basically before any, David knows very well, before you make a decision on behalf of the DAO, or if you're doing voting or that kind of thing, there's a lot of discussion that happens around that because it's a community-led effort. And so we have a platform and an app that supports that and brings things on chain. And I'm now pivoting more into trying to figure out ways to incentivize folks to get more involved too. So I'll speak more about that later, but that's kind of my experience with DAOs.
Okay, thank you so much. I got to pick a lot of things from the both of your introduction. One, you're working with Bridge DAO, and I believe that you're more well-versed into DAOs. And then I love what you said. You were following something, or you're part of the Africa something, and they were building or creating a reserve fund on the DAO, something like that, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So it kind of shows that. Yeah, it kind of shows that the Black community is really, getting into there. We're trying to become part of what is happening. When you look mostly in the past, a lot of our folks were kind of behind, or they were left behind in terms of becoming part of what is happening, or becoming part of the innovations that are happening, or even becoming recipients of the funding that is happening, especially in the venture capitalist world and all that. So now we're talking about DAOs. Maybe for somebody who does not understand or does not know what a DAO is, can you kind of shed light on what DAOs are?
You want to go first, Caleb, since you're managing a platform?
Yeah. So DAOs are like they come in a bunch of different shapes and sizes, but to put it simply, it's an internet community with a shared bank account. And so it's like it could be, and I don't know if that's helpful. I'll restate. So an internet community with a shared bank account, essentially what it is. And so it's a group of folks that come together and they can do it. They can pool their funds and they can distribute those funds automatically using software, and they can also distribute those funds trustlessly. So the everything's transparent and everybody's seen. So there's no like funny business. So in a common example I use is, let's say that me and David and Kanani want to like, pull together to buy an NFT, or let's say we want to buy a car or something like that. We want to pull our money together. Well, how would you do that traditionally? Traditionally, you go get a bank account, maybe have 3 signers in the bank account, and you put the money in, and then, you'd be able to distribute that money, hopefully with the bank's permission, but hopefully the bank wouldn't give it to just one of you guys. If somebody decided to rug everybody and take the money, it's really kind of like, it's a difficult thing. And in order to have that bank account with 3 people, you probably have to set up a business like an LLC, and then that's like a long process. And so it's pretty complicated. What you're able to do with the DAOs and other similar structures is like, you're able to pull your funds together and have governance rights. So you can program the software to only allow the transactions to happen based on some voting rights or some actions happening that are triggered automatically via an Oracle. And David, keep me honest on this one too. and then also transactions are recorded on a blockchain, so they're transparent, they're immutable, meaning they cannot be able to change, and they can only happen through the use of software into certain validation conditions. And so what it does is allows our little collective to buy a car to be able to actually pull our money and be able to have a lot of confidence, a lot of visibility and trust in the transactions that we're going to be doing, and the intention, executing on the intention of the initial kind of club. That makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. You nailed it. And I just want to step back a little bit and say, well, why DAO? I think DAOs are super useful because they allow collectives of people to come together and make decisions without having any one person, organization, or company being the leader. In this world that we're living in, most of us are living 100% time in it. Some of us are living part in that and part in Web3. But in the so-called real world, there's very, very little of that. It's almost always the situation that there's either a company, a nonprofit, or an individual that is making the ultimate decision. With the DAO, you have this possibility where a bunch of people, and it can be at scale, right? They can be distributed all around the world. They can actually come together and make a decision about how they want to move forward towards a common purpose. So it's a very powerful construct.
Yeah, it's the essence of decentralization, basically.
Yeah.
Pielo and Ramadan have just joined us. Maybe they can just briefly introduce themselves before we continue with this discussion.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Pielo Baikatli. I'm new to the space, and I'm eager to learn how DAOs can be leveraged to create more opportunities. Looking forward to contributing where I can and gaining valuable insights from this discussion.
Okay, thank you so much, and welcome. We hope you will get to learn a little bit, 1 or 2 things as we continue the discussion, and also you will be able to catch up on the discussion. Is it Ramadan?
Thank you very much.
Ramadan?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. So I'm kind of a traditional finance person, but I'm sorry, I'm off camera. I've been traveling for the past 2.5 weeks, and so I'm a little jet lagged and not quite presentable for a camera today. But I'm a traditional finance person. Spent quite a bit of time at BlackRock and in fundraising in general, and then I moved over into Web3. So I'm also a DeFi native at this point. Work primarily in tokenization space, doing merchant bank tokenization, which is kind of where I stay now, where I look at helping people understand that tokenization is really just securitization with lower cost basis, and finding out and looking at ways to.
Can you say that again, Ramadan? Sorry. Tokenization is what? I thought that was really good. Say that again.
The tokenization is just securitization with a lower cost base. So oftentimes people just talk about securitization and in many cases sort of don't want to talk about tokenization if you're traditional finance people. But if traditional finance people understood that it's just technology makes things cheaper, then we can then sit down with a traditional finance person and explore what are all the things we can do with traditional finance if you can reduce cost basis, if you can do KYC one time, if you can program your controller into like the software, you all of a sudden make it possible to do so many more things with tokenization and reliability and risk mitigation. So, so that's my background, and that's typically where I stay, and my conversations are usually at the head of state level. So, usually Minister of Finance, Minister of Urban Housing Planning, or typically head of the central bank is where I sit with my conversation.
Thank you. What we have like a diverse of panelists today. People who are already on the space of DAOs, people who are in the traditional financing, and even people who are kind of like new in the space. Before Ramadan and Joel joined with talking about what what DAOs are, and we got to learn about the internet computer with a shared bank account, and that it is trustless, it is transparent, and no one can try to force things, or no one can try to cheat. We talked about governance, like voting rights, and then transactions on the blockchain. Let's move up a little bit more. Can we maybe talk about what are some of the most successful examples of community building in DAOs that we have seen in our Black community? Maybe we'll get into that one. Talk about some of the successful examples that we've seen happening in our Black community as far as DAOs and DeFis are concerned. Maybe I'll start with Poison, or he's off. Benjamin, we can jump on that one.
Yeah, one of the most interesting ones was several years ago with the Constitution DAO. They brought together, I don't know how many people, but enough to raise about $40 million, or maybe even a little bit more, in an effort to buy a copy of the U.S. Constitution, a paper copy of the U.S. Constitution. There's a number of them, and they go for a lot of money. So these people, within 1 week, they came together as a DAO. Unfortunately, they were not able to actually secure the particular piece of property that they were trying to get, because they were transparent. And it meant, in fact, that the people that they were bidding against knew how much money they had. So as it turns out, I mean, they were very successful in mobilizing people and raising money, but they weren't able to actually do what they intended to do. Now, there are a number of different DAO communities that are around NFT collections. So there's for example, the On-Chain Monkey DAO is one that comes to mind, but there's many different ones. And these are essentially communities that are rallying around an NFT where each person within the DAO holds an NFT, and maybe the NFT has a purpose, maybe it doesn't, but they have a number of those. There's also the Pizza DAO. There's a ton of them. I can't remember all of them, but yeah, there's a lot of successful ones. I will say that DAOs are hard, so we might want to talk about that as well.
Yeah, you can continue. You can continue on that.
Well, I've actually participated in a number of different DAOs, and like I said, right now I'm a council member of Bridget DAO. It's very small. It's just 4 council members. In fact, several of the members have been to the Black Blockchain Summit, including Fasa Ross and Josh, and I don't know if Melanie has, but yeah, there's a small group of us that are pushing forward with the meta layer project that I mentioned earlier. And we've seen the DAO as really an entry point for us to become decentralized. We're small at the moment, but as we are moving forward in our purpose, we're seeing the possibility to bring more people on. Now, I have also been involved with Tulum Coin DAO. I helped start that project. And it's actually somewhat difficult to do DAOs if you don't have money to pay people, because there's, people's time is precious, right? That's really one of the most important things that we have. And unless you can come up with a very strong incentive structure, it's very hard to maintain the people's focus on DAO activities, unless there's, some really strong, passionate reason that the people are involved. And even if it's something that they like a lot, it's still difficult unless you have the incentives in place. So we found that that was very difficult to keep people together, especially in Tulum, where people are going in and out of the geography. So yeah, I would say that if you're going to start a DAO, plan on spending a lot of time on community building.
Awesome. We are talking building or successful examples of community building in DAOs and DeFi. So we're trying to pick up on those examples, and so that we can showcase that, are DAOs really important, or are DAOs really valuable? You were talking about how you were able to, one company was able to raise like $40 million dollars as a DAO. So it shows that if people can come together and form some form of a governance as a Black community, we will be able to kind of raise funds. I'll say we might be able to raise funds for our businesses and startups. Caleb, we are talking successful examples of community building in DAOs and DeFi. If you have like examples that you can share.
Yeah, so to pick on what David was saying, so sorry I dropped off there for a second. The internet went down. The company I'm working at now, Common.xyz, one thing that we're introducing is stake, and then also contests. And these are both like efforts to creating incentives for our DAO participants and also DAO organizers to bring the participants in to actually participate. So as we saw with the downturn to the bear run, if you will, of the Web3 space or blockchain space, we had a lot less engagement on the DAOs around our platform. And so a lot of that was just folks weren't interested anymore, or there wasn't as much upside. And so there was a lot of thought we did a lot around like what incentives can be input into our forum so that DAO organizers can incentivize their users to participate. And some of the things we talked about was like tipping, or like, offering like staking, where they can stake some of their tokens within their DAO to earn some reward on that, and then to kind of bring them in and engage them. And the idea is, like to David's point, is like with community building, it really is about engagement. This is like in Web3, it also just generally is, if you want to really build a cohesive community that has like resonance and sticks together, then you really need to be engaged in that community and providing something for them to unify around, or something to engage them with that gets them excited. And so it's a problem broadly, but I think in the Web3 space, it makes it easier because you can use crypto rails to incorporate incentives, financial and otherwise, to get people to stay engaged.
Yeah. So when you're talking about DAOs, so it's very important that, one, for you to be able to have money to build that DAO, two, to be able to incentivize people that are going to be part of the DAO. I do believe that's where the governance come in, and that's where people will be like having tokens in their projects, so that those projects can be used to incentivize people who are holding certain kind of rights in the DAO. Ramadan, been in the traditional financing space. Is there like one DAO that you feel like this one is like really, really successful in as far as you're concerned?
I haven't. My experience is pretty much as David has said, which is when you think long term, it's really hard to keep the sustainability of a DAO. On some level, people may not like it, but you still need to hire people. They still need to have bosses. There still needs to be a reason outside of the cause that drives them forward. So on some level, I think the concept of DAO is still being evolved and developed. But I think that people should keep trying. Like I'm very, very, very interested in something called Hypha DAO, HYFPHA DAO, to try and find a way to run all basically internal operations of a company in a DAO-like structure. So that you can see spend requests, spend approval, budget forecasting, burn down, all of that in a DAO-like structure would make it better for an investor who wants their capital to go to work, wants to commit their capital, and can commit it the time it's spent, and can see that the capital is running through the system the way it's supposed to. I think that is what a DAO can do. But when it finally gets there, that is going to help me raise capital, and it's going to be the missing piece for a lot of financing in emerging markets.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think what keeps on popping up is the idea of being able to raise funds. So I'm thinking of the Black community. Pierre, maybe you can jump in on this one.
What about the Black community?
No, we are discussing the successful example. We're discussing the examples of community building on DAOs and the DeFis that these people have been able to see, and we're discussing the different DAOs that exist right now and that are happening or that have been done by people. Some of the projects that are successful, that's where we are. So,
all right. Yeah. I think having said that, I'm new on the space. I think DAOs are very good, and everyone has a right, and everyone has a say on what to do it's working as like a cooperative. So in practice, each member of a DAO typically holds tokens that represent their voting power. When a decision is being made, needs to be made, like where to allocate the funds, where to the project that needs to be done, which the funds, how to allocate them. Like we are talking about people making $40 million US. That was a lot of money. Which project we can fund with this money. So the members use their tokens to vote. So it's transparent, it's democratic. And having said that, that is why it is very, very important for the Black communities. That's my view on that we are being empowered if we are given the DAOs.
Yeah. If we will be able to create DAOs that will give people an opportunity. Normally we talk about the kind of red line that we keep on seeing happen in the Black community when somebody is building a startup and the other person is building a startup on the other end. It's kind of difficult for the Black person to receive funding as easy as it is their counterpart, or let's say the Caucasian is raising funds and the other Black person is raising funds. It's kind of difficult for them to be able to raise funds as a Black person. So that will give us an opportunity to be able to fund our projects, give us an opportunity to be able to create that trust-led society, I'll say. Now we need to move forward from that because today we're talking DAOs and finance. We stayed a little bit long on the DAOs. So we cannot separate the DAOs and the decentralized financing. So maybe I want us to kind of talk a little bit about decentralized finances and also to, appreciate how incredible these DeFis are. The ability to be able to lend, borrow, trade, and earn interest on your assets without depending on the bank. It's really, really, really exciting. So maybe I want to ask the question: how can we make the DeFi safe, especially for people in our community who might not be as tech savvy as us? Maybe I'll start off by asking you that question on the DeFi. How do we make the DeFi safe, especially for people who are not tech savvy?
Ramadan, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was asking about how do we make the DeFi space safe, especially for people who are not as tech savvy as us?
Yeah, I mean, this call is recorded, so I won't tell you how much money I've lost in the DeFi space with fraud, right?
You're not alone.
And I consider myself to be pretty good, but as a CFO, to see people run scams that are really good. So I can't answer that, but what I can what I can answer and speak to is the fact that we need to really think differently about financing in general, right? When people put money with us, they put money with us because they expect a return. And when they're putting that money with us, they're also comparing the return they can get with you versus the return they can get someplace else. So there are countries I've been to where you could just buy treasuries and get 19% return. So on some level, that you can't compete with that in terms of just getting your money back in markets. So it's really about return. And so I would put the question back is do people really need to think more about who cares about what they're trying to accomplish and what is it they're trying to accomplish? And if they really haven't communicated that, and then they really need to hone into that. And then they need to find people that care about that because the real value is in people that are aligned for a longer term perspective on financing whatever it is that the objective of this capital deployment is for. And so blockchain, this then becomes the proof or the support to help people get comfortable with giving you or trusting you that capital to achieve their objective. A slightly different than answer than you might wanted, but
yeah.
I can jump in.
That's a good one.
Okay.
So here's my take. As Ramadan said, it really is difficult to come up with ways to protect people, especially the less savvy people. Right now, we're in a situation where AI is coming in. Scams are already so prevalent on the web and so prevalent in Web3. Now AI is being used to essentially put the scams on steroids. So what I will say is that Web3 does not have a solution for this. And that's one of the reasons why we need a meta layer, why we need Web4, because there's so much more that we can do if we're occupying the space above the web page. It's the type of thing where if someone gets scammed by some kind of phishing site, et cetera, on the web, whether it's Web3 or not, we could basically mark that site as dangerous. There is some of that already happens within browsers, but you know what? A lot of people are getting money taken from them. So obviously it's not working too well. I believe that we have a meta layer and we had a mechanism for anybody to report sites that were scamming, and then a verification, a quick verification possibility, then you have this opportunity to shut down sites much, much quicker than you do if we're relying on the browsers, which is a centralized mechanism. Decentralized can be better, I believe, in this case.
Yeah. I think maybe we have to try to learn a little bit more about the layer 4 that you're talking about, and is it layer 4 or web 4 that you're talking about, so that maybe we'll be able to deal with so much scams that are happening in the phishing sites that we see happening and people losing their money through that. Yes, and we still have Talib and Tuelo. We're still talking about how to keep the community safe, especially those who are not. Yeah.
I think it's really important to help people understand and manage expectations for what Web3 offers. So in the same way that DAOs and blockchain crypto rails can allow us to raise money really quickly and do it in a trustless way, it also allows that speed also is on the flip side. It can allow people to get taken advantage of very quickly or getting robbed really quickly too. And I think that's it's really important to understand for folks who are entering the space to know this is not a panacea or a fix it all or a perfectly safe place to come in and take risk financially. It's actually something that needs to be thought about in the same way you would if you were going to invest in some stocks or invest in some other company. If one of your friends was like, hey, I'm doing a startup and you're making a middle income salary and they're saying, hey, I need $10,000 for you to invest in a startup, you'd be asking a lot of questions of your friend. You'd be relying on the trust of them. And so that kind of scrutiny you want to we want to continue to encourage people to have that kind of scrutiny with the things that they're getting involved in, especially when there's a financial risk. And so I think that setting that expectation is really important. I also think that that in the same way we create community. So if you're creating a community within a DAO or using like a platform to talk with people and like have a forum, you can create a lot of trust and build a lot of trust within that community as you, as I think Ramana was saying this in David as well, is like as you develop it and as you are bringing more funds, like you build that trust and you have that community, you're talking with real people all the time and seeing how invested they are. And that those sort of like indicators or signals for folks who are maybe more risk averse could be, reassuring for them. And I think that they're validly so reassuring because that's actually showing that you've got a real community that's really interested in the things you're doing. And the more specific or the more exciting the centralizing focus for the group, I think that actually makes it more secure as well. So in the sense of like, if it feels like too good to be true, like obviously do more scrutiny, and understand that like whatever financial risk you're taking in Web3 is on the highest risk of the spectrum as far as like financial risk, let's say treasuries on the other end, for example. This is on the opposite end of this. And so treating it that way and not exposing yourself too much is some aspects of like maybe financial literacy, things that we can kind of encourage as a part of like helping people understand this. But really this is just, to me, blockchain is infrastructure. It's a way for us to do things faster and hopefully more trustlessly without having to have as much trust in the centralization factor. So that's how I think about it as far as community building.
All right, thank you. Fiona?
All right, I love DeFi. Its banking is on another level, but definitely security is very, very important when you're talking about that. So I think DeFi platforms use smart contracts. So this help reduce the chances of mistakes and or fraud, like we've been talking about scams. So, however, since the technology is developing, it's important to use platforms with a good reputation. So you don't just take any company or anyone around and just say put your money in. It's also crucial to teach our communities, the Black communities, how to recognize and avoid scams. So my thing, I believe, is we have to, education is key in everything that we do. We have to educate our communities so that they make sure that everything they do, they are safe. Their money is safe. Whatever they're taking money into is very, very safe. So it's very, very important to teach them. Let's teach our communities. Like here back home in Botswana, people are losing millions and millions of money to scams because they take the shortest route. They don't go to good. They don't get advice from good platforms. Yeah.
We only have like 2 minutes. I think to round it all up, you all talked about building trust. DAOs, they help build trust, because if you all come together and we build that DAO, we'll be able to kind of build trust for our community. Our communities will be able to have a place where they can be able to go to and get some kind of reassurance or assurance that their money is safe, and there will be enough curation, there will be enough. There'll be enough, what do you say? There'll be enough, that word, it has gone away. There'll be enough creation. People will be able to have trust in platforms because of the groups that we have formed as a community. So if as a community you can be able to build the DAOs together, we might be able to help our community to benefit. As the last thing that maybe I want you to share before we close, how do you think our community can benefit from these DAOs? Are they profitable? Are they good for our community? Looking at the fact that we've been trying for so long to become part of the innovations that are happening, but somehow, the Black community is always left behind. Do we see the DAOs as something that can be beneficial at the end of the day? Just in 1 minute each.
I guess you go first. So I think it's hugely beneficial and a lot of potential, because it allows us to fundraise with more transparency. So folks who are getting involved in this, they actually can see where the money is going, understand the decisions that are being made with the money, and have it like all immutable. So it helps increase trust. It also, the rails allow us to be able to raise money and deploy money faster. How I think about it is, if there's an emergency or a disaster somewhere in the world and I donate to Red Cross, I give my money, pay my check, maybe on e-commerce, I'll put my credit card in there. I don't know where that money goes. I'm assuming it's going to what they earmarked it for, but I can't see it. And so with a DAO, you can actually see it, and you can report on it, and you can have a community that also sees it as well. And so that inherent trustless, I keep saying that, but transparent and collective nature of it, I think makes it really, really huge opportunity for the Black community, because we're looking for a place like that where we can really invest our money and feel secure.
Thank you so much, Caleb.
Yeah, I'll just say that Caleb hit it right on the head, the nail on the head. It's really a great way to bring people together, to have them think about a singular purpose and to raise money. Doing that all transparently it creates a potential for a more sustainable way to move forward in purpose-driven projects. As we were talking about, there are some challenges because we're still early in this. So anyone who jumps in now, I think, needs to be thinking of this as something that's going to be evolving. It's not that the rules are all have already been generated, are tried and true. No, it's really something that we're doing experiments. And if people go into it with that perspective, then there's a tremendous possibility for us to come out the other side with some very powerful organization. It may take 2, may take 5, may take 10 years to really see the promise of DAOs, but I think it will happen.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah, Ramadan and let's take yellow.
It's Ramadan.
Yeah, sorry. I echo everyone else's sentiment. I don't necessarily believe that the Black community is left out. It's just more a function of those of us that are in the Black community. I think we sometimes try to be doubly safe before we actually speak. So I mean, that might be it. But outside of that, I think that what's been said is we just need to dive in. Technology is here to help. Technology just makes it possible for everybody to move faster. Bad people to move faster and good people to move faster. So ultimately, the DAO makes everything better. But what we really need to be thinking about is how do we raise money, which has to do with finding people that are really suitable for making an investment. And if you don't do that, no matter how much technology you have, you're just kind of stuck. You shouldn't be asking someone to have $10,000 for money, because they're just not going to be right investors anyway. And the effort it takes to actually raise money from people with a little bit of money is the same effort it takes to raise money from people with lots of money. So,
that's a good point.
Yeah. I just wanted to jump in and say that DAOs are also a very good source of funds. So if someone's starting a DAO and they have a really good concept, there are a ton of DAOs out there that are willing to actually support other DAOs and help them get started.
Awesome. Yep.
All right. Yeah. All right. My last word is I believe the DAOs that are helping our Black communities, they're empowering them. That's empowerment. And then lastly is financial inclusion. We are all included, regardless of your color, regardless of whether you are rich or poor. Even my old mother from the village can be involved and take part wherever she is, as long as she's got access to the network, and we can all unite as Black communities. So it's very good. Yeah.
Yes, which means we can create DAOs around specific goals. We can decide as a community what kind of DAO we want to create. We can create a DAO to fund Black startups. We can create a DAO for educational initiative. Imagine where every member of the community is able to contribute even a little amount, and we collectively decide on which project we want to fund as a community. So this keeps the power and the decision making within the community. So I do believe we'll continue these conversations on DAOs, and we'll be able to see more people in our community creating DAOs. I forgot his name. I think it's Benjamin said there are so many DAOs out there which want to support other DAOs. So maybe it's time for us as the Black community to start thinking of DAOs, useful DAOs which have got a purpose, which are purpose driven, and we can be able to create those and be able to change our community. Thank you so much to my wonderful moderators. And I do believe we shall continue these conversations at the Black Blockchain Summit. Thank you so much.
Nice meeting all of you.